Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Scott, and it's true. I am the artistic director of a small theater company here in Ottawa called the Company of Fools. As I'm fond of saying, that makes me the big fool. Thank you. Thank you very much. My father-in-law, when he visited last year, was like, he's a bit of a grammar Nazi, so I don't include him as a friend on Facebook because it just gets ugly. He was like, shouldn't you be, technically speaking, the biggest fool? And I did have to remind him that I live in Ottawa in the shadow of Parliament Hill, and so I cannot claim that distinction in this city. So. I'm really pleased and excited to be here. You've heard a lot of great speakers already who have a really strong connection to learning, and I'm here to be the idiot, essentially today, because in the modern world, we seem to think that any idiot's information and knowledge is as good as any other idiot's information and knowledge, which is why we have Rob Ford. So. I'm not wrong, though. I'm not wrong. So I know nothing. I really know nothing. I'm a child of the 80s. I was a punk, and I'm a military brat. So I grew up, we moved every couple of years, and I grew up knowing one thing. And that one thing is that I was wrong. I grew up knowing I was wrong because whenever you go to a new city, the clothes that they wear in that new city, they're not the clothes the cool kids were wearing in the old city, which I'd finally managed to convince my mom to buy me after 2 years. So I arrived thinking, now I'm going to fit in, and I didn't. I was always wrong. And of course I had a military father, and it was the 80s, the age of rebellion and punk, so everything I wanted to do was wrong at home. And so I learned one important thing. I was wrong, and of course the response to being wrong is to then assume that no, everybody else is wrong, I'm 100% right. And I entrenched myself. I calcified my ways of thinking into a rigid code, just as rigid as anything that I was apparently rebelling against as a young punk. I know I don't have hair now, but I did. It was in the spike even. I had the spiky hair. And then one day, I learned how to do something called improvising. I learned to improvise. And the use in improvisation in the worlds of business and commerce is so well known and documented now, and so many companies use improvisers that I'm not going to turn this into an infomercial, although I could. And if you book me today, I'll throw in a set of steak knives. But improvisation really did change my life. And the reason that it changed my life is because improvisation taught me to fail. It taught me to get things to be wrong. It didn't teach me that I was a failure. Kind of in my heart, I'd already sort of internalized that in that shitty way that we all do when we're young and rebellious. I already thought, I'm a terrible failure, therefore I will become a punk and be horrible. It'll be awesome. But improvisation taught me to fail. And it's a skill that I had not learned in any other place. In school, I was never taught to fail. In school, I was taught I must succeed. I had to know all of the useless pieces of information that I didn't want to know. And I had to know the exact way to do the process, even if I might think that there might be some other way to do that process. In school, I only learned that I must succeed, and I was frustrated because I couldn't. Improvisation told me, it's actually not about succeeding. Succeeding doesn't get you anywhere. Succeeding's actually kind of boring. What you need to do is to fail. And Keith Johnson, an improvisational guru, once remarked that nobody comes to the theater to watch an improviser get it right, just like nobody actually goes to a car race to watch the car get around the track. They kind of want to see something wrong happen. Now, I'm not suggesting that you should all let your workplaces go to hell and throw safety out the window here, but learning to fail is the single most important thing anyone can do in their life. Because learning to fail makes you realize that failing isn't so bad. Like, what's the worst possible thing that could happen here if I came up and I totally tanked this presentation? What's the worst thing that could happen? Okay, so you'd think really poorly of me. You might remember the company fool's name. When I asked you for money in 2 years' time as a sponsorship, you wouldn't give it to me. I'd lose my house and have to... Actually, it could be really bad. All right, I'll take that back. No, nothing. Nothing bad is going to happen if I tank this presentation, which is why I didn't even bother preparing for this presentation. I didn't plan my speech at all. I'm totally making it up as I go along.
Enough! Get off the stage!
You're right, that is the worst thing that could happen. So, but unfortunately, I didn't prepare my own speech, but I asked some people to prepare them for me. I asked a bunch of the people that I was talking with earlier if they could actually write down something that they had either learned or never learned. And so I'm just gonna do somebody else's speech with these cue cards, which I didn't even look at yet. Hopefully, I can read their writing. All right, so I'm just going to take this one. Something I never learned. I have learned to check with people what words mean for them. Example, cooperate or together. I married a Brit. In theory, we share a common language. In practice, we have no words in common at all. Any word that I use, she means something completely different by it. The cultural differences between two people that are apparently from the same set of backgrounds is immense, and it's true. All my life, one of the things improvisation helped me with as well was realize there's more than one perspective. There's more than one reality to the words around us. There's more than one way of understanding them. Isn't this a good speech somebody else wrote for me? It's amazing. I'm going to do one more. Français. I never learned Français. I actually did learn Français. Je parle Français. But damn you, Mr. Becker. See, it is the worst thing. You could remember my name. I remember Mr. Becker. Mr. Becker was a horrible, horrible French teacher, and he made me hate it so much that it wasn't until I started dating a French girl that I actually learned to speak French again, 10 years after I'd got my bilingual certificate. Yeah. I almost started learning Japanese for the very same reason, but then she dumped me, so I do not know how to speak Japanese. So there we go. I use improvisation and I learn things all the time. As somebody in the creative cultural sector, I actually have no idea what I'm doing at any point in time. I have to make it up as I go along. I have to learn from what the people around me are telling me, what it is that I need to do, how I need to create a function. I do corporate gigs all the time where I have to present, do entertainment for people along a corporate vein. I have no idea how to do any of the things that the corporations want me to pretend that I know how to do as I create their thing. But I fake it. Why? Because I listen, I learn, I react, I go. And I do all of this because I'm not afraid to fail. Because I know that no matter how bad something gets, we're going to laugh. Something good is going to come from it. Silence isn't going to kill me. Not knowing what's going on isn't going to kill me. I'll just ask some questions. It's all going to work out. If you don't do anything else in the rest of your life, I urge you to learn to fail. Thank you very much.